Okay, so it's been a while since I've done one of these videos, and I thought it would be a great idea to dive into the project of my latest song called All Night Long that just released on NCS.
If you want this love, then call me and I'll drive to you. And we can touch all night long. Just call me and I'll come through.
The song came together quite quickly, and just looking forward to diving in and showing you what I've done and how I got the project going. So the session started randomly at my house in London, and one of my friends had a really good top line that I just sent over. We literally set up we set up the room downstairs with like my speakers on the table, my MIDI keyboard, even like my Scarlett 2i2, like the red one. I mean, for some reason it's turned into a meme, but yeah, that's how the session started. I received this top line and I was just instantly inspired, and the song happened really quickly. So before we dive into the project, like the production, I'm going to start off by showing you the different versions that happened before the final one, because it's always rare that in sessions or whenever you're making music that you have the first, like the first session is like the final version of the song. There's always a couple of tweaks you want to make and a couple of versions that you'd like to enhance or add in or remove in basses, etc. So all of these versions are slightly different, and you can hear how they kind of evolve over time. With different versions, I kind of create different project alternatives. So as you can see here, there's like a bunch of different ones, and that's just me starting the session and then creating a new alternative, which is like a duplicate of the project, and just tweaking some things. And if I just went too deep in one area, I can always go back. So anyway, let's listen to the first ever session from the first day of producing All Night Long.
I was chasing shadows, moving too fast. Didn't see the way our love couldn't last. Now I'm stuck replaying what I put you through. Every night I'm haunted by the thought of you. If you need my loving, call me and I'll step on through. And we can talk all night long. If you want this loving, then call me and I'll drive to you. And we can touch all night long. Just call me and I'll come through. Just call me and I'll come through. Just call me and I'll come
So yeah, that was the first version of All Night Long. I had a solid idea of where I wanted to take the song. Like the top line that we had was so good, I didn't want to overdo the production, just add all of these big crazy synths and using my favorite compressor or saturation, thickening out sound design, thickening out synths, etc. The initial idea I had for All Night Long is I'm just going to make the song just like a summer vibe, UK type, something a bit fast. I didn't want to overcomplicate the production at all. I wanted the production to kind of follow the song. So I thought of the song first and kind of produced around the track. I just wanted to make it like accessible and just create a good vibe. So we can already hear from the first version that all the elements are there. It's almost like the ideas just, that's the first draft. So the ideas just kind of come to life, if you will. We can hear in the second drop around here, all the elements are there. Even the start of the drop, it's a different bass line. It's like more like a deeper bass. And you can also hear what I wanted to do with the vocal drops. So that's just the first rough draft from the first day, and then I always go back and then just refine things. So that was like version number 1. So now if we follow up with version number 2.
I was chasing shadows, moving too fast. Didn't see the way our love couldn't last. Now I'm
So you can already hear the difference. It started off in the first version with like an organ, and now we just added chords. I did some chords under there.
If you need my loving, call me and I'll step on. Just call me and I'll come.
So we can already hear the difference as well with the vocal chops, where I just went in and kind of added some more side chain. I probably chopped up some things around, but we can already hear that there's like that organ bass in the drop that's different from the first one, and it kind of sounds a bit more refined, if you will. So yeah, great second version. If we move on to the third,
I was chasing shadows, moving too fast.
I used those same chords and just replaced it with a different patch as well. So we can already hear the idea getting closer to the original. Sorry, closer to the final version.
Every night I'm haunted by the thought of you. If you need my loving, call me and I'll step on through. And we can talk all night long. If you want this loving, then call me and I'll drive to you. And we can touch all night long. Just call me and I'll come through. Just call me and I'll come through. And I'll come through.
So we can already hear there, it's a lot more refined. The vocal chops are more like they're closer to the final version. But you can see how over time you just keep working out a song, and it kind of you just do minor changes over time. And I think the bass line actually in this one's a bit more saturated. Yeah, so there's little tweaks like that, and obviously we have the final version.
If you need my loving, call me and I'll step on through. You can touch all night long. Just call me and I'll come through. Just call me and I'll come through.
So this is the version we're going to have a look and dive in right now. But as well, the very last minute thing was to change the BPM as well. I believe these first three, they're all in like 132 BPM. And it sounded a bit slow for what I was going for. So for the final project, I increased the BPM and just altered the production slightly. So that's essentially it for the different versions. You can see how over time it evolves. It starts from one idea and you kind of flesh it out as you go. So yeah, let's dive straight into the project. So I'm going to start off with the drop, like the chorus. I just have to switch off some of my mastering plugins just because my CPU is going to hate me. So right now I literally have like the mix bus off, the mastering chain off, etc. So it's going to sound a bit different. And also it was mastered and mixed externally anyway. So that's all good on that front. I'm just showing you the production, like the final production stage, if you will, which is literally the the version that's out. So we start off with the chorus. I'm literally just going to start off with the drums because that's how the project started. We've got this really punchy kick, it's right in your face. EQ wise, I'm just getting rid of the low end a bit. There was this area here in the frequency spectrum that was a bit too boomy. And also I'm using parallel compression to bring it more up front. So if I switch this off, so this is routed to a bus with this really cool CLA 76 plugin. And essentially what parallel compression is you're using an over-the-top compressor. So like a compressor with extreme settings. So you can see here the output's all the way up. The attack's quite quick, the release is a bit slow, and it's really driving, like this is like literally overkill. But if you add it on the bus that is then fed into your original signal and you dial in the amount of compression you want, then that over the top compression will make the dry signal like a lot richer and a lot more in your face, which I feel in dance music is like a must. So if I just turn this down, just dial it in. So yeah, I kind of found the sweet spot here, and that's really what gives that kick a lot of punch. I mean, I could have added some other plugins and stuff, but I felt like the kick sample sounded really good, and I just left it as is. We're looking at the drums now. As you can see, I did use quite a lot of drum loops, and I kind of stuck to a deadline with the song. I remember I started off with this, The drums sounded really good, therefore I didn't really need to add too many like layers, etc. I had a clear idea that I wanted the track to be kind of like groovy. And I did find some loops and stuff that worked, and I did layer some other elements on top. So we're starting off with this clap, really basic clap. Then we've got this little really good top loop. So those two are kind of grooving the track. In terms of hats, we have this one right here, standard, really cool electronic hat, and then this one here, and this one's panned more to the right. So if we layer these two together, it sounds more like one hat because they both have different characteristics, but layered together they sound really good. And when you're kind of like layering hats, I feel like especially the higher up you go in like the frequency spectrum, the more stereo you'd want the like the frequencies to be. So that's why I kind of panned the hats one more to the right. I believe I've got another one here, and this one's panned to the left. So that's what's creating the sense of like a space. So yeah, that's just 3 hat samples laid together, panned, and for me it sounds good. And especially in the second part of the drops, I always add like an open hat. So yeah, that's essentially it with the hats. I didn't layer the claps too much. I literally knew what I wanted to do with the song. It's just to add the groove, little breakbeat, and the hat really poked through. Kept it super simple. Drum processing wise on the bus, there are a couple of plugins that I use. Let me just loop it around here. So we're just going to turn all of it off, and this is what it sounds like without any of the drum processing. So we're starting off with compression. This is really good compressor. I really like this one, Archon by Waves. It's really thickening the sound. Moving on from the compression, so I know now everything's kind of like level, sounds good. We're moving on to saturation. So I'm massively boosting the highs and a tiny bit of the mids. There shouldn't be too many lows. To be fair, I think I used another EQ to carve that out. But you can see down here that the mix is at 65%. And it's almost similar to the parallel compression I showed earlier. Essentially, I didn't want it to be at 100%. I wanted to make these I wanted to make these drastic changes with the mix being a bit lower, the wet dry knob. And already I could tell there's a lot of grittiness, so I'll tackle that later on down the chain. So once the saturation is applied, it kind of grittens the drums a bit more. On top of this, I've got a tape machine. Again, adding more grit to the drums, like the drum bus. I use this preset called Extra Drive, and it's essentially a tape emulation from back then. Really good to add those extra harmonics as well. Got this channel strip. And this essentially is just taming the harshness that I've added with the saturation on the tape machine. Because you can easily overdo it if you keep adding these plugins like EQ, saturation, boost in certain areas. It's going to sound really like harsh in the higher frequency area. So this plugin essentially just tames those frequencies down, but I still have the desired effect of having this like really punchy like drum bus. Yeah, you can really hear before that hat just poking through. I don't think I've used these two. I've switched them off, so I'm not even going to dive into it. Then we've got a de-esser as well, which is also reducing the harshness. It's essentially a de-esser is like a compressor, but for the high frequencies. So yeah, quite simple. And then in the EQ here, I realised that actually there was a really resonant and harsh frequency around this area right here. yeah, I just tamed that. And we have a clipper on top, just boosting everything up. Just making the drums more in your face. And finally, to finish off this drum bus, we have a meta filter. This is literally my favourite filter, I've been using it for ages. It's from Waves, and I believe I'm using this for automation purposes. Okay, so that was essentially the drums for the drop. Moving on, let's go down to the bass line. Down here. Essentially, it's just 2 layers. We're starting off here with Serum. This preset's really good. I think I found it on Splice or something. And it kind of emulating the M1 organ, which I actually am layering in below that. Really simple chain on this. We're using an EQ to get rid of the low end because we don't need, for this specific, or this specific sound doesn't need any low ends because the sub bass is kind of occupying that part of the frequency spectrum. Opening up at EQ, there were a couple of harsh frequencies, specifically this one. So yeah, any peaks I just tamed. Sounded a bit harsh, to be fair. After that, saturation. Just added a bit more grit. Shaper box, I believe this is for sidechain. Even though this doesn't really need sidechain if it's offbeat, but there is one section here. Yep, and then with these specific plugins, I kind of played around and decided I didn't need them. For example, this bit crusher. Didn't really need it, so I just switched it off. And that's essentially the processing for that first layer. The second layer is this M1 organ that I've bounced out. Sounds really harsh and digital. I'll show you actually the processing for that. Let's go in the OTT. Just really bringing it to life, bringing it more in your face. I think the processor behind this bass, I kind of wanted to process this M1 organ in a way that it didn't sound too much like every single M1 organ on the planet. So I've added more saturation. Especially this EQ, which is adding a lot of that high-end grit on top. After that, I'm using a kickstart to sidechain the sound. Just look in the volume. Shaper box on top, which is literally the same one as the other one I had, and an EQ to get rid of the low end as well. I'm not sure if this is, yeah, okay, so then I added a reverb on top as well. I'll get rid, actually let me leave that on. That kind of adds the sound in the space. It's just, yeah, concert hall reverb at a low decay time. And just to save my CPU, I bounced that out and we have it under here. So it's all good. We've got the kind of like the top bass lines, and then layered is a sub right beneath it. That's just a simple sine wave from Serum. And I'm still in Serum 1. I need to upgrade to Serum 2, which I can't wait to do actually. I need to do that ASAP. And yeah, so the processing under that is in EQ, which essentially is just getting rid of everything above 100 Hertz and just allowing for that low end to just breathe. Even though it already is, actually did have some frequencies in there. Kickstart on top for the sidechain. And then I've got this gain tool, which is essentially just putting the sub bass in mono right here. And that's it for the bass. Regarding the processing of the organs, let me switch all these off. So that's without the processing. First of all, I've used this compressor, which is a really cool compressor. I feel like it adds a lot of grit and a lot of presence to a sound. It can almost be used as well as a like a parallel compressor as well. So I think I'm going to start using this now. Compare it with the CLA 76 shaper box, but I believe this is for sidechain. There's just so many sidechain plugins. I feel like I just kept adding them, forgetting to remove them or something. Same with the EQ to make sure there was no low end. Another EQ on top. I think this is for automation. Yeah, I think I'm automating this in the second drop over here, which we'll dive into. Channel strip EQ again. Taming those really harsh frequencies that were brought out by the saturation and the compressors, etc. So that tames it. On top of this, we have a multi-band compressor. So this actually worked wonders. So the Fabfilter MB multi-band compressor, obviously within the EQ, you're affecting the whole signal of the sound. So if you're boosting or reducing a certain frequency, such as, you know, like 300 hertz, that's going to be across the whole audio signal. Whereas with this Pro MB, it's only going to affect the signal. It's only going to duck or reduce those frequencies when it pokes out. So the sound on it by itself doesn't change. It's only when those problematic frequencies go over the certain threshold that it just ducks it. So that's why I used that, and I set the threshold for each one, and it worked perfectly just to smoothen out some harshness, get rid of some muddiness as well. On top of this, we have a Valhalla room. Just putting it in a room, really. Bit more in the background. Endless Smile, that's for automation later on. And what did I put on top here? A parallel compressor. So there we have it. Cool little bass line. A lot of processing, really. But yeah, moving on, let's dive into the vocal chops. If we listen to the vocal chop, what's creating this sidechain is this specific shape that I carved out, and then we've got another one below this. So this shaper box is panning the sound from left to right at a 32% mix, so it's not 100%, it's not drastic, it's just changing in the stereo field a tiny bit, but it adds that movement. And on top of that we have this guitar stomp, just added a bit more grittiness, and I believe it was the CQ, yeah, same thing, just getting rid of the low end, and we have a reverb, this set to a reverb. So yeah, we've got a vintage verb, and beneath this is a sidechain. So essentially what's happened is the reverb's being fed into the original signal and it's been sidechained, because I think I wanted the effect of it pumping out when it's finished. So that's essentially it for the vocal chop. For this specific effect, it's just an EQ getting rid of these frequencies here. That's a side effect, and that's essentially it for that first part of the drop. Moving on to the second part of the vocal chop, we have this bit right here. And this essentially was bounced from my original processing chain that I've done here, with some extra effects added on top. So essentially what's really good with Logic is that you can create these chains that you can save and open them up in different sessions, and in literally every song that I do, whenever you hear like a stutter, I'm using this chain right here. And if you have a look over here, these are like all different ones that I've saved. I've got like vocal chains, like sample stuff, etc. So yeah, this was vocal stutter 2, but I've got the first one, and essentially I'm kind of using these different plugins in a certain way that creates that really cool stutter sounds. And on different chains, there's like different distortions, etc. But I'll dive into how I did it. So if we have a look here, very basic. We're starting off with a shaper box, and this is set at a 16th rate with this specific shape right here. Below that we have a sidechain. Laid on top of this is another plugin. It's another tremolo, another volume shaper. Which really tightens those two other plugins, the shaper box with the kickstart and then the tremolo. The combination of those three really makes it really tight. Then we've got this plugin called Crush. I don't think I've used this in the end. Yeah, it's a free plugin. You should definitely check it out, and you can really play around with the bit crushing. Yeah, it's really cool, but I literally just didn't even need it. We've got some distortion. And some more distortion. So this sound is like really harsh. So what I did is I bounced that out down here and essentially added some more plugins on top. Added a clarity that doesn't want to open for some reason. Guitar stomp. I mean, it sounds really like heavily processed and a bit muddy. Had a meta filter for the filter on top, so we're getting rid of the high end. And then an EQ below that. To really put it in a space. And what I like doing as well is just to make things a bit more interesting, especially in this project. There's this one vocal down here. Just adding parts of the hook inside. And to get this effect, I'm just turning down the formant using a vocal bender by -3. I mean, I wish I had like sound toys, but you know, vocal bender does the job really well. And I'm decreasing it by 3 semitones, so it's not altering the pitch like the key of the sample. It's like the bit in between, so like the semitones. And that's how you get that effect. So I thought that was a cool little addition into the drop. And essentially that is it for the vocals. One thing that I have forgotten actually is this bass line right here. Which in my opinion sounds so cool. And that is a patch from Serum Dark Garage. So yeah, such a cool pack. I found this on Splice, really good. But what makes this super interesting is how there's an oscillator with -5 semitones. I think what I did tweak it quite a bit. I added some effects or changed some things around. I did tweak some of these knobs right down here. But why this is really cool is these two oscillators are kind of blended together, and like I said earlier, the one's like decreased by 5 semitones. So if I played just one oscillator, it's like this saw wave. And if I play this one that's at -5, if we combine the two, really cool. And yeah, there's not much processing on this at all. I'm just boosting. It's actually adding more crunch, boosting that high end around there. And yeah, that's essentially it. We do also have some like basic effects underneath. If we have a look here. Just some really basic grooves layered beneath the drop. I like this little white noise hit. Little shaker. think that adds a lot of depth to the groove of the drop. So yeah, that's the drop. And yeah, let's move on now to the structure of the song. I'll show you different effects, different ways I processed as well the verses. So yeah, we're going to look at the arrangement now.
I was chasing shadows, moving too fast, didn't see the way on.
Anyway, we're starting off with some really cool chords. Really atmospheric. I feel like these chords really resolve nicely. So in the drop I started off with the bass line, the bass notes, and I kind of built the chords from that point onwards. I really like how we're here with a C minor 7 going into F minor 7. Just those 7th chords adds a really cool tension and release, and I love how it just resolves really nicely. So layered beneath these chords we have a Reese bass, which are playing the root notes, the bottom notes of the chord. Really simple intro, to be fair. Then we have this effects layered beneath it. And what's doing a lot of the heavy lifting is Portal. So it's a really cool plugin that adds a lot of grain and texture. So I was just playing around with some presets or playing around with the macros. Yeah, it definitely adds a lot of weight to the sound. And also, yeah, in the effects section we've only got like these little whooshes, little cymbals. Cool little background fillers essentially. Moving on. So what I did to progress the song onwards from this really atmospheric bit is to add the bass line and some extra effects. So if you have a look at the effects down here, I literally just chopped this bit up and repeated it with the same Portal preset on top, which I thought added a lot of grain, and it just kept driving the song. On top of that we have the organ. And some top loops. And I feel like it transitions really well, really nicely into this section with the effects below. I really like this sound right here. If I remove the processing, I've used the tremolo on top. So yeah, I feel like this little trick with transitional elements work really well. It's at a very quick rate. It's just turning the volume up and down at a really fast rate, and I think I automated this. So I was playing the sample and using the touch automation. You could just draw in the different automation points as the song goes along. So that's what I did for this one, which is really it sounds pretty good in my opinion. Effects wise, I've got the cymbal whoosh that I use in every song. I've saved that preset for years. Got a sub bass, a string, another one. There we go, and the riser as well. That is for the build up. And we can have a look at the vocals as well at the start. I didn't really process them much, they were already ready to go. But I did add this really cool plugin called Clarity on the bus. And essentially, it's acting a bit like Soothe 2, so it kind of smoothens out the high end a bit. So if I remove this.
I was chasing shadows, moving too fast, didn't see the way our love couldn't last. Now
Yeah, it sounds really good. And yeah, it just really cleans up the harshness in the top end there. A really cool trick that I do with a lot of vocals as well is to add these delays in the background. And this was done using a really cool plugin called Replica. Like, it's one of my favorite delays. I literally always use it. So that was like the original signal, and what makes Replica really good is that there's just so many different options with delays that you can get out of it. For example, like the modes. If I go into vintage digital, for example, it almost adds like some bit crushing. You can change the saturation of it. But what's really good as well is that it modulates the delay after the sound is played. We can even filter it. So like this for me is like such a good plugin. I use it all the time. But anyway, for this example, I used the delay and then added a filter on top to kind of add it in the background. And once that was done, yeah, just bounce it out to audio, and yeah, we have it right here. And then that's kind of like sprinkled around the song. Same here, which I've done with a delay up here and with this one as well.
And we can talk all night long. If you want this loving, then call me and I'll drive to you.
So essentially with this delay specifically, I did literally the exact same thing, but rather than using Replica, just used like H delay. No clue why it's set at 120 BPM, but it's at a 1/8 rate. Interesting. So that was bounced down, and once I bounced it, I added plugins on top of the chain, and nothing too crazy. It's just a bit crusher. So this is before. This is now. So adding the bit crusher on top, and then the tremolo, which is essentially panning it left and right. It's not at 100%. It's at 60 because I feel like if I put it all the way to 100, yeah, it's just too much. So around 60 at like a quarter rate does the trick. So that's kind of sprinkled around. We're following, and then it's building up to the drop. No crazy like drum build up just yet because it's the first drop. Moving on, we have the second verse, and if my laptop allows me to play this, which it probably wouldn't. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but for some reason it doesn't like this version. It doesn't like this section. So anyway, I'll just explain as much as I can. Essentially, just to keep the groove going from the drop, rather than there being like a dip in energy, I'm just keeping the flow going with this kick, and then a shaker beneath that. Just to keep the groove going in the second verse. Essentially, this was like a happy accident, this part right here. Essentially, this kept going, and from the vocal chain that I showed earlier, there was this really cool little bit towards the end, and then I just took that and bounced it down here, and then just looped it. It's like the delay that's still going, like the tail of it. Of the vocal chop. I thought that sounded really cool, so I left it in. You've got some pads, some keyboards, essentially the same thing that was going on as earlier. Now we're going to go to one of my favourite bits of the song. So the pre-chorus, rather than copy and pasting the different sections and it being the exact same, I wanted to add some variation to make the song more interesting as well. So essentially, to achieve that, it was literally the very last thing that I did on the song, and it's just a combination of different elements. First of all, we've got this acid type bass. And all that is just a serum preset, which is like some sort of lead. Then we add this MIDI effect on top. which Logic has some really cool MIDI effects. This one was like the ARP, so I've set the rate at 1/16 and it just repeats the note. And I just drew this pattern in, sounded really cool. On top of that, we've got the sidechain. And what's being automated over time to make it more drastic is the mix of the drive. Which sounds really cool. It almost sounds like a resonance filter on the synth, but it's actually the mix of the distortion in Serum, which is fair enough. And we've got a filter as well laid on top, and that's automated over time. So yeah, right here, so actually what's happening is the high frequencies are being like reintroduced. Which for me sounds really cool in this section right here.
If you want it, love it.
So there's a cool call and response that's happening as well.
If you need my love it. If you want it, love it.
So essentially I took those parts and chopped it up, added some effects on top, like some Ender Smiles are a really good plug-in for these really atmospheric type of vocals. But it's literally, it's like a, what do you call it? It's like it's mainly for like build-ups and stuff like that, but for these types of vocals it works really well. So essentially what I did is I bounced that out and yeah, added like an EQ to get rid of the low end.
If you want it, love it.
So that's what's creating the contrast. The reverb is kind of pushing it back, and the normal hook, which is in your face, is just,
if you want it, love it.
It's just talking to you, and that's in the background like a call and response type of thing. So we've got the call from the vocal, and then the response with these atmospheres, another call and another response. And yeah, I'm just playing with the formant, with the reverb. I mean, that sounds terrible by itself, but in the mix it sounds pretty good. Yeah, essentially using a vocal bender, decreasing the semitones by 2, like the formant. Well, yeah, the formant, not the semitones. So this is without. Sounds really distorted, but in the context of the mix, that's essentially this bit, which was the very last thing that I've done on the project. One thing that I love doing before like the second drop is to kind of create this like fake drop in a way. You'll see what I mean. So if you play it from here, if it was the same drop, it would just land here, but I'm just creating another build up to make it more interesting. It's a shame I can't activate my master chain or anything, because everything sounds really tight and a bit brighter, whereas this is just like the premix. So to add more impact in this section, I kind of use filters, reverbs, and filter automation, etc. I'll show you, and these really prominent kicks. So the kicks are just like, and they're also being automated, like the low end's it's just going away before it hits again. I layered that with some crashes. Then this little fill. And I just created that fill. I kind of chopped up a fill and created my own little groove. This whoosh sample, I use it all the time. And that's just me recording. I made this up back during COVID or something, during lockdown. And it's just me going on my iPhone speaker, and then I processed it. Talking about transitions as well. You just have these different elements that really work well together, I feel. I think I've muted that. yeah, so that tom fill really adds a lot like more like acousticness to the song. um so yeah, in order to achieve this really big fake out drop, you can see there's a contrast between wet and dry. So, or processed versus unprocessed, however you want to call it. Essentially, I'm taking the organ on this bus and just getting rid of the EQ, like all the low end, to just make it sound like it's so far away. So I essentially drew that in, and yeah, you're just kind of locking in the frequencies. The low end's gone a bit of the high end, so it's sitting in the middle, and you layer that with a reverb. I mean, that thing is pushed all the way back, and that combined with the kicks and then the other risers. Can't even hear it, but yeah, you see what I mean. As well, to add more impact, I literally added all of the drums in there. So like with the first drop, we've got just the first part of the drums, and then these more groovier drums come in the second part of the drop that's here. But to add more impact on the second drop, especially with the build up, like that crazy middle eight chorus coming in, I just added literally like the whole drum groove. And then the stutter in the background as well, and just the same. That's essentially it. We've got some more atmospheres. That's just to really thicken out the drop, and there we have it. That is how I made All Night Long. That was the final production stage. But yeah, I hope you got some value out of this. If you have any questions in the comments on how I made anything, or any questions at all about production, yeah, you can just put them in the comments. And yeah, thank you for watching.